What's going down, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Commander Ad Populum. Commander for the people, by the people, for the people. This is episode 15. I am your host, Ryan, and this is it, part 2 of our super awesome episode with my good friend Jesse. But before we get to that, I just want to do a quick thank you and shout out to FusionGamingOnline.com. They are your place to go for all of your Commander needs, all of your Magic the Gathering needs, and of course you can find Commander Ad Populum as well as all of Fusion Gaming Online's sponsored content over on themanabase.com. Articles, YouTube videos, you name it, they got it there, so check them out, themanabase.com. Big thank you to all of the patrons. You make all of these episodes possible. And of course, if you wanted to become a patron, if you're able to support financially, I would very much appreciate that. And you can go to patreon.com/cadpopcast. You can find all the episodes of Commander Ad Populum there, as well as altered art tutorial content now that should be up or coming up shortly. We did hit that stretch goal about a week and a half ago. So if you're interested in learning how to paint cards, alter cards, or if you're interested in maybe a patron exclusive altered art swap giveaway contest thing, let me know on Twitter at cadpopcast. Shoot me a message on Facebook, facebook.com/cadpopcast or cadpopcast@gmail.com. Just wanted to get that quick business out of the way so we could jump right back into our interview, conversation, whatever you want to call it. I'm here with my good friend Jesse. We are back. Okay, so we are back in Studio CCO, and we are here with the green screen. Terrific view. When pre-editing, it's just green, FYI.
Ryan, I have no idea what you're talking about. Man, this is a beautiful view out there. I mean, well, looking at the landscapes of what was once Mirrodin, I mean, oh my god.
There we go. Now it's New Phyrexia. Hey, you think we're going to go back to Phyrexia ever? I want to so bad.
Oh, I do too.
You know what? I don't want to go back to Phyrexia. I want them to invade another place. Oh, yeah.
That'd be good.
Mirrodin, maybe. Or, no, sorry, not Mirrodin. Kaladesh, maybe. That's a thing, right? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of works. I mean, yeah.
We were talking about last week, we were just starting to get into what one can do if they or their friend... if you recognize signs or symptoms of somebody who needs some help in their playgroup.
Yeah.
And we were talking about...
like at the table specific scenarios.
Yeah, at the table or after the game. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. At the table or after the game saying, hey, do you need to talk? Do you need help with something? Is there something I can do? Or maybe is there something that one of us did that you don't want us to do to potentially avoid the T word trigger, right? So tell me about that. What have any of us done? And then what have any of us done? I guess, what have any of us done to ever increase your... exacerbate your anxiety level? Or what have any of us done or our playgroup done to bring it down?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything that anyone's ever really done that's really been like a real trigger, so to speak. Yeah, it's
a come to Jesus moment for me there. I'm like, oh God, what is he going to say?
I mean, I could go down the laundry list, Ryan.
Oh.
No, it's, yeah, I mean, again, my own kind of triggers, my own kind of experiences are I guess, unique to me, so to speak.
I'm sure it's unique to everybody.
Yeah, no, true enough. Fair point.
That's like the anxiety and depression equivalent of it depends on the meta.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, it depends on the meta. I don't know. Is it good? Is Lightning Bolt good? I don't know. Depends on the meta. Sure. Okay.
It's what it comes down to, I think, though, for the most part, is a matter of what your personal level of interaction is with that individual. Mm-hmm. So again, how close are you to, right? Is it someone that is just new to your playgroup? Is it just a random guy sitting there across the table from you at F&M?
Yeah.
Or is it someone that, again, like you and I, we've been playing together longer than we care to actually acknowledge because that ages us.
Yeah.
Again, in which case, again, you likely, if you've been playing that long together, you likely have a pretty good one-on-one level of interaction.
Yeah.
In which case, again, you probably have that comfort level to bring something up and talk.
Yeah, and the same is true, I guess, even if you haven't been playing Magic together that long, but if you've been friends, or like if this is like a brother-sister relationship, or brother-brother, whatever, family member, probably have the familiarity.
There we go.
Sure, we're going to call it that. To talk, right?
Yeah.
About whatever's troubling you.
Yeah, I mean, part of it might be even just be like, hey, Ryan, like I just noticed like you just seemed a little bit more on edge today. Is everything okay? Or I noticed that again, like when something specific happened, It seemed like, again, like you really seemed to kind of tighten up.
Yeah.
Was something kind of bothering you there?
These
or
are
do you wanna talk
examples
about
of
it?
things that we've either talked about or people can talk about with
Exactly,
their whoever.
Yeah, I mean, again, you might feel comfortable talking about it. They might feel comfortable, or they might not, or you might not. I mean, it's
Dream scenario, actually, you picked me up the last time you picked me up. You said, oh man, I'm so happy I get to come out tonight and whatever, jam cards, whatever it is. I really need this.
Yeah.
Work's been kicking my ass. My anxiety's been through the roof. I just need to let go.
Yep.
So there's 1,001, depends on the meta, things that people can do, and especially if they're familiar with their levels of anxiety and how to manage them.
Yep.
I'm sure there's 1,000,001 things that are bad to do. There's 1,000,001 things you can take, either prescribed or otherwise. Is magic? Do you think that magic is a healthy way to deal with it, or is
I think it can be.
Okay, let's talk about that. It can be.
Yes.
What if you're using it as a means to create scar tissue over top of wounds that aren't healed properly? Probably not a good way.
Yeah.
You're using it to escape and to hide from your issues? Probably not a good way.
No, but I mean, so one of the big things with both depression and anxiety is they often lead individuals to self-isolate.
Okay.
And one of the nice things about magic, one of the things I love about magic personally, is how much of a social game it is, and how social the community is in general.
Commander especially,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Okay.
I mean, that's I think one of the big reasons why I have gravitated so strongly towards Commander over the years.
Because you have to play with multiple people.
Yeah, I mean, you can play one-on-one, but I prefer the group interactions.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to that extent, though, it's it is therapeutic, right? 'Cause I mean, it kind of forces you to leave. I mean, if you're single, or I mean, if you're living on your own, it's all too easy to fall into that kind of pattern where you just kind of go home, you settle in on your own, and you don't go out.
Yeah, that's probably one that hits home for people our age who don't have significant others or kids or who live on their own. Yep. I know a lot of people like that, and Magic, Commander, whatever, is a way for them to actually just go out and see people that they know and are familiar with. It's different when you go out and actively seek games of Commander versus just going out and sitting on a bench at the mall or like going to Taco Bell.
Yeah,
right.
Well, I mean, like, and again, given the variety in terms of your user base or listener base, rather, I'm sure you've got some listeners that are probably still in high school. You might have others that are, again, university, others that are now, or rather, I should say, not even just university, but like post-secondary. So again, going to school,
adult-aged people.
Yes.
Okay.
Whereas others might, again, just be straight into the workforce. If you're in high school still, or if you're pursuing some form of secondary training, post-secondary training, chances are, again, that because you're going to be in more of a classroom environment, it is kind of a work-centered environment, but at the same time, it's still very social.
Yeah.
Whereas which means, again, you might not necessarily have that great of a need for a magic group. Whereas, again, for someone who's in more of a strictly work environment.
And playing at an F&M full of strangers, or going to events all the time with strangers, is fine. Because you've got a social kind of structure in school or in work, or if you have a bunch of roommates, or if you live at home.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're, for example, if you're just working, right? Like if you're working in an office environment or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not exactly social, right?
Yeah, cubicle for 8 hours a day is not a social environment.
Exactly. And I mean, there's not really, chances are, your workplace is not really going to encourage you to sit there and chat with your colleagues all day.
No, but you know what I will say with regards to school or work or name your institution, they probably do have some type of guidance person or HR person. If you're working at like a bigger corporation type place, or if you are at a high school or a university, there are people who exist. And I think that's important enough to mention, because a lot of people might not actively go and seek those people out.
Yep.
They might be scared or anxious about talking to somebody if there is underlying issues that are causing the depression or the anxiety, and I think it's important to let those people be used.
Yes.
So I don't, like you say that you are doing that with a therapist now. Have you done that since you first started to suffer from depression?
Oh God, no.
No? When did you start?
I started struggling with depression at about the age of 13.
That's what you said last week.
Yeah. I didn't actually begin treatment for my depression until I was probably my early to mid-20s.
It's 10 years almost.
Yeah.
10 years, let's call it.
Close to 10 years, yeah.
And so what did you do? Did you just like
I just struggled.
live with it and struggle? Or
I struggled with the dark periods. I struggled with suicidal ideations.
Is there, when you're going through something like that, do you learn how to adapt and just live with it? Or is there ways that you've found to lessen the struggle as you went through it? That's a pretty deep question.
No, that's fine. That, it's the reason I was kind of biting my lip there was just because, as much as I can speak to my own experience there, not everyone is going to have that, right?
That's right.
I had a couple of classmates through when I was in high school, junior high. Sorry, one when I was in junior high, one when I was in high school, and one immediately after who committed suicide. So that's, and I know that's getting a lot deeper, and I don't want to delve into that too much.
Well, listen. There's going to be people out there that are listening that are
might be struggling with that.
That might struggle with that.
Yeah, exactly.
And or people who have been touched by what you've said so far. So if that's you, like I just said, there are people in your institution, whether it be your work or your school or your circle of friends, even if they're not a trained therapist, there are people there that are there to help you. Specifically, it's their job to help you.
Yep.
Or specifically because they're friends or family members, they love you and want to help you.
Yeah.
So I think that's important for me to mention and for you to mention.
Yeah, and I mean, and regardless of where you live, there's almost always some form of like mental health hotline or suicide hotline, somewhere you can call that, again, if you don't necessarily have those personal connections, because not everyone does, familial or otherwise, that there's someone there that you can talk to who will care and who will help you.
And even if you don't, I mean, there is everywhere. Like, just pick up the phone, right? Or pick up Google. Yep. We tell people, don't Google that. You can Google, like,
mental health help.
Exactly. Yep. Let's say you live in a small town or somewhere that...
more remote.
Yeah, you could probably just walk into a doctor's office. You probably... You can. It's not the exact help that you require, but the doctor is going to have the tools or the recommendations on who to talk to. You could probably...
You would hope so.
You would...
Not, that's not always the case, though, is the only concern.
I agree. You would hope so. Going on the basis of they're a doctor, they know more about health than I do, that's probably a safe place to start.
Yes. No, it absolutely is.
Same like if you walked into a hospital. Maybe not the emergency room, but if you walked in and said, hey, I'm having trouble with XYZ, this is a center of health, I need help. They're going to tell you what floor to go to or what desk to speak to.
Yeah.
And
or what number to call, whatever it is.
Exactly. Here's a bunch of pamphlets with phone numbers. These are the people who are trained to help you. So I think that's important, because while magic and friendship and family is important and probably is helpful for a lot of people, people like me and even people like you who have anxiety and depression issues don't always know how to help.
Well, that's the thing. One of the important takeaways is that even though, for example, for myself, like I at this point, I'm pretty sure I'm more than well versed in depression and anxiety, among other things. That I'm still not a trained professional.
Exactly, and it's all different. It depends on the meta, right?
Yeah, and I've walked a few friends through it. I've had a few friends who were in some really dark periods, and I've had to talk a couple friends down from committing suicide.
Air quotes, talk them down.
No.
Oh, actually,
actually talk them down.
Wow.
And I mean that's a really, really tough place to be in.
Yes.
Where again there might not be the chance or the opportunity to say, hold on while I get someone else that can help you. There are some times where you actually may be the only person.
So, and this is going to be another heavy hitter, and you can answer it or not answer it, either in how you did it at the time or not. At that time, what do you say? What's the message?
The biggest thing that again, not being a trained expert, I can't say what the best thing to do is. I know for me, it was, when I was talking to them, it was stressing to them and reminding them that whatever it is that's going on will pass. You will get through this. You have people here who care about you.
Yeah.
We are here to help you, to get you through this. I mean, again, one of the most apt descriptions I've ever heard of suicide was likening it to a suicide bomber, which is essentially where if you had someone walk into a crowded room and end their life, the people that are going to be most impacted by that, other than the person who dies right there, are the people closest to them.
Yeah.
And it's a pain, it's an injury that just expands outwards. And it leaves hurt and pain for everyone all around that individual. And for me, that's always been the biggest thing that just kind of helped me get even past my own suicidal ideations that have kind of been there over the years.
Yeah. Especially now that you have your own family, your own kid, your own wife.
Yeah, for me, it's never been something I've ever actually considered. It's always been, and again, that's why I refer to them as ideations.
Yeah.
Is that they've been like flashes in my mind that have never progressed beyond that. For a lot of people, though, they're not fortunate enough to have that. It progresses beyond that for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Which is where it becomes really problematic. But again, stressing that I'm not in any way a trained medical or I guess mental health professional. But I've had to be there for a few friends again and just talk to them, remind them that I'm there for them. I will always be there for them.
Yep. And
they always have some of those people there that care about them and that will be there for them.
Whoa. Heavy. Let's take it back. That's all great. And
dial it back.
Yeah, I suppose that's a little bit deeper than I thought we were going to go. But that's great stuff to know that there are people out there like yourself that do want to help people. And I know that there are, from interacting on Twitter or the patrons or the Discord, I know that there are other therapists and social workers and people that work in the health industry, I'll say, that listen. And I'm sure that you guys feel the same way that Jesse does. And I think that it's important that you do go out and tell your friends and your family or whoever that you work with that everything that Jesse just said, you are there for them. It is important. Let's dial it back to Magic and our own playgroup.
Yeah, absolutely.
How specifically has Magic the Gathering helped you, other than the social aspect that is Commander? Or is that the best way to describe it?
I mean, the social aspect is certainly one of the strongest ones. Beyond that, though, I mean, so as I mentioned before, anxiety, depression are not the only two things I struggle with.
Okay.
One of those other wonderful things is obsessive compulsive behavior or disorder.
We've gone
Yes.
deep. You
Yes.
and I have gone deep on this
Yes,
before.
I remember that.
You play. But here's the example. Jesse's a Commander player. He plays one-ofs in all of his decks, but he collects play sets of all the cards that he wants to play with. So I call him out one day. I said, "Why do you want that?" Right? And naive 10-year ago me, before I knew that you were like this, I'm like, "What? Why do you do this?" And long story short, I was an asshole and said, no, I don't believe you. So sorry, Jesse. that was me being a douche canoe 10 years ago.
It was a learning experience for both of us.
It was. Yeah, no, it's great. And you know what? If we can all grow together, that's one of the things that Magic can help us do. We're always engaging together in conversation and talking and even thinking, discussing, theorizing, and those types of things grow our relationship and grow us up and help us get jobs, right? I know so many people who apply, and I've even talked about it on the show, applying process-oriented thinking to Magic the same way I applied it to when I used to be a track coach, and vice versa, right? So what about the creative process, the deck building process?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of where I was going with some of the, I guess, my obsessive compulsive behaviors. Part of it is, again, even just the kind of card management and the... I mean, you've seen how I kind of keep all of my cards. I've got everything sorted.
Yeah. Alphabetically by color, by rarity, 700 different binders.
Yeah. So,
and that's not me bugging you. That's that's me theorizing and describing what your collection looks like.
Amongst other things. But
you're like that with more than just cards?
Yeah.
I guess you can't just turn it off, eh?
No, I can't. But
I thought you could.
Yeah, I know. It's just a little off switch back of my head.
Yeah, that's the... Really? That's just me being a jerk again, everybody. Sorry.
Good. But yeah, so I mean, there is the creative process, though, that really helps. I mean, it's a great outlet, and I mean, I've always been one where I really love fantasy literature.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
What did you like? What did you like? I'm sure there's going to be listeners that have read the same books as you. You're a Harry Potter guy.
Harry Potter was one series. I mean, I started reading those right after the very first one came out.
And now you're reading them with your son. Full circle.
Yeah, and working towards building an actual hidden Harry Potter room for him, as you know well.
Yeah.
Wheel of Time was another really big one when I was growing up. Redwall series was one I really enjoyed as a little kid.
What about any Magic literature?
Yeah, I've read through some of it. Not nearly enough.
I hope you read through the good parts like the Ice Age and like Brothers War, and not the bad parts like Time Spiral. Please just tell me that you did, even if you're lying.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And I mean, I've read through all sorts of Brandon Sanderson and Terry Goodkind, tons of different major players in the fantasy world. And so, I mean, this has always been kind of another fun way to kind of explore that, and it's another outlet.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I hate to use the word escape, but it kind of is sometimes.
Well, people use the word escape when they're talking about Dungeons and Dragons all the time. Yep. You can write whatever backstory you want for your character.
Be who you want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Be who you might not be.
Being who you want to be and not being who you are as well is as equally important when you're playing D&D, because it is used as an escape, almost like a therapy, even though I don't know if I'm allowed to call it that or not, but I mean, if you're using it as a form of expression instead of like hurting yourself or using some substances that aren't prescribed, I mean, that would make magic healthier than that, right?
Yeah, and I mean, again, I've often likened magic to an addiction in of itself. I mean, I have an addictive personality. I come from a family where...
Oh, yeah, you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I don't drink, as you know it. I've never used or abused any mind-altering substances, period.
Mm-hmm. He means drugs. Just throwing that out there.
There you go. Either way, though, I mean, a big part of why I haven't and I never have is just because of the fact that, again, I don't want to become addicted. Whereas magic is, again, one of those things where I'm like, you know what? I'll have that as my vice. I'll have that as my addiction. But
this is good enough.
It's a relatively healthy addiction. So
it gives me what I need is, I think, the important part.
Yeah, as long as I'm not constantly draining my bank account on it, I'm okay.
Oh, wait, but you're playing Magic.
I said constantly.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't help that we're spending in Canadian dollars either.
Oh, dude. Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff, other than the Canadian exchange rate, especially right now.
Talk about another depressing matter.
Very excellent. Okay, so we're coming up to time. Is there anything else that you'd like to, from this week or last week, is there anything that you'd like to reiterate on, to drive home, or to mention that we haven't already talked about?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think one of the big things is or the big takeaways is just that depression, anxiety, other mental illness, super common. I mean, again, speaking strictly to Canadians here, they say that roughly 50% of Canadians will have experienced some form of mental illness by the time that they have hit 40 years of age.
Whoa.
So, I mean, that's, between you and I, that's one of us, right?
Yeah, and is that statistic that much higher for men versus women?
That I can't attest to. I'm willing to guess, just from past knowledge, I think it probably is higher for men.
I'm just thinking because most Magic players are men when you see them out in the wild, for lack of a better term.
In those forests of neckbeards, yes.
Yes.
One of the other kind of things, too, is I know that there's some research now that's also looking into more, or I don't want to say metacentric, but that is looking at more, I guess, smaller communities. So in the way that, again, they're looking at more like art-based communities, which I think Magic would almost fall into.
Sure.
And finding that there are actually like a higher percentage of artists, for example, are more likely to suffer from mental illness than the average community, or than like the average population. So I wouldn't be surprised. Again, I have no data to back it up, but I wouldn't be surprised to see if that was also the case. Separately, just because someone is being a douche canoe at the table, it could be that person is actually just a genuine asshat, or it could be that they're just having a really rough day.
Or it could be all the way that they are actually dealing with some form of
illness.
Illness, that's right.
And
that includes addiction.
Yeah.
That does include addiction. I talked a few weeks ago on Commander Ad Populum about people using control decks as a means to control the game of Magic where
they can't control other aspects of their life.
That's exactly it. Yep. Where they are out of control financially. Maybe they're going through a divorce. Maybe they just lost their job and they feel like they can't secure anything long term in their life, and that gives people a sense of, or an elevated level of anxiety to relate it to exactly what we're talking about. It gives them a
window into some form of control which they otherwise lack.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if you're playing mono blue, you might not necessarily be a douche canoe. You might actually be...
Oh, no, I think that one's a universal.
Oh, okay. There it is. You heard it here first.
Yep. Looking at you, Evan.
Oh, yeah, that's excellent.
Kidding, buddy. I love you. Yeah, so it is going to be different one person to the next. The biggest thing I would just try and ask that people try and come away from it, at least from my own experience, is just try not to make any assumptions. Don't assume that the person is an asshole. Don't assume at the same time that they're just automatically like having an experience, like, or that they're experiencing some sort of mental illness or otherwise. Mm-hmm. Just try and keep an open mind.
And treat them all as individuals, right?
Yeah.
Like we could both be acting like assholes, and you might be suffering from something elevated that day, and I'm just an asshole. Like
I think we both are in general, but
Yeah, but for different reasons. That is all I have for you today.
Awesome.
Is there anything else that you wanted to say? Any last tweetables? Any like one line take home message? Maybe never assume. Is that we said that last week? Is that another thing?
I'd say never assume, and just keep an eye out for your friends, for the people in your play group. If you honestly see someone that you think might be struggling or might be having a really rough time, just reach out. Just say like, "Hey Ryan, how's it going? How are things today?" If you can, maybe even in just a one-on-one situation, because they're more likely to divulge or to actually talk to you, chances are, if it's one-on-one than if you're sitting at the table with a bunch of other people.
Sweet.
And that one ask of "how are you doing" might be all that person's needs. So
totally awesome. Thank you for coming and doing this. This is Studio CCO. I gave Jesse the big tour.
beautiful, love the view.
Love the view, yeah. What did we say it was? Mirrodin?
Yes.
It used to be Mirrodin?
Yeah, what used to be Mirrodin.
Okay, very excellent, Jesse. Thank you. I will see you on Tuesday. I'm gonna re-record like an extra piece to the end of this. So everybody, I'll see everybody in like 1 second. And me and Jesse are gonna wrap it up here. So that was my interview with Jesse. I'd like to thank him again for coming along, driving out to my house. It was a little bit windy, a little bit of a crappy day, but we sat in and took care of some business, and I'm very happy that he came and got to not only teach me about a little bit about what he's going through, but of course also help anybody that is out there that's listening to this, or anybody who thinks that they can take some of Jesse's knowledge and help their family, friends, play group, whoever it is, or even if you just go into F&Ms or go to events at a Magic Fest or whatever with a new mindset as to who you might be sitting down next to or beside. So I think it's super important to be educated or as educated as we can be without going to school to try and learn about anxiety and depression and all the associated, baggage that comes along with it. So I'd like to thank Jesse for coming along and helping us with that. If you or someone you know are in a situation like Jesse and you might need help, there are avenues out there. There are people that can help you. And I'm gonna do some research myself and include some stuff in the show notes. So there'll be links below to places or phone numbers below to places that I think will be helpful or beneficial to people. And of course, if you are out there and you work in the health industry, and if you know anywhere that people can call or email or read stuff on, of course, feel free to comment on Facebook, on Twitter, email me, I'll retweet it, whatever it is. Like, let's raise some awareness. Let's do the right thing for anybody who is suffering from any elevated levels of anxiety on a day-to-day basis, or anybody who is suffering from depression beyond what is manageable for them. So let's do it. Let's make our community a better place. This is Commander for the people, but I'm going to call it Magic the Gathering and people for the people. So get at me. Let's make it happen. Until then, you guys, I'll see you next Wednesday.